Welcome to today's lecture. Today we're going to be talking about solutions to social order. We're going to be focusing predominantly on values and group pressure. The way rational choice theorists have developed their theory, they've positioned enlightened self-interest as the best motive available. You basically can't go wrong if you're motivated by enlightened self-interest. Consequently, they've situated the two other aspects, emotion and habit, as less desirable. Habit's problematic because you're not thinking. It can be extremely useful because the community is the most important thing in the world. You are so programmed, you are so socialized to the social system that you're being motivated by habit. You're not even thinking about what you're doing. On the other side, we have sort of a problematic aspect with emotion and selfishness. Selfishness, you're only thinking about yourself, and occasionally, with emotion, you're only thinking about yourself, and emotion can be a major problem for social order. And there is sort of a positive and negative spectrum with emotion. Emotions like happiness and pride are framed as positive emotions. Sadness, depression, anger are framed as negative emotions and problematic for social order. Obviously, given any context, even being happy can be socially disordered. If you are a director of a funeral home, being happy and funny are not appropriate emotions. So this is a little bit of a simplistic framing of the issues. Today we're going to add values. And one of the things that's important about values is it's, again, saying that community is the most important thing in the world. Now, either direction you go, if you go towards altruist, which is, totally serving the community, or if you go towards egoist, which is I am the most important thing in the world, either direction can be problematic. Habit can be problematic, so can values. But I do think that habit and values have something in common. Both are saying a community is the most important thing in the world. So let's take a look at values today and keep this stuff in mind. I also wanted to review goods, private goods, collective and public goods. I wanted to remind you that the problem of social order when you have private goods is theft. When you look at the other side, the problem of social order is free riding. I have an example of a public good for you. If you've ever used Mozilla Firefox as an internet browser, notice that it says made by a global nonprofit dedicated to shaping the future of the web for the public good. So this idea of public goods is not pie in the sky completely. There are organizations that seek to create a public good. We have a second example here, the polio vaccine. Jonas Salk, this man developed the polio vaccine. He could have made lots of money. Instead, he just gave it back to the people and said, I developed a vaccine, anyone who wants it can have it. Both of these examples, Mozilla Firefox and the polio vaccine, are people who were not concerned about money and people who cared about the world writ large. And both of them sort of are showing us that public goods are possible and could be very, very beneficial to our society. The big issue that we raised last class was this idea of free riding. Free riders do not cooperate with the group. How do we solve this problem? If you've got a market system and people are playing games and trying to compete and trying to cooperate with each other, free riders are problematic because they're not cooperating with the group. So how do we solve that problem? Well, to some extent, there's always authority. If you've got a free rider, you could sort of fall back on authority to fix the free rider problem. As we've seen with our government, free riding and authority might not be the best solutions. We have a lot of people who free ride on our government in a way, and government doesn't seem to be able to fix it. Maybe government needs to try some new rules, new monitoring. Maybe that authority can be fixed to fix the free rider problem. But another solution that we can look at is values and group pressure. The idea here is that participation in groups is a transformative experience. If you've ever been completely a member of a group, it should change you. It should make you orient your life differently. A soccer team, Boy Scouts, whatever group, it should transform you in a way. You join as self-interested, but it's all about cooperation, learning to work in a group. I love teaching sociology because, particularly this unit on cooperation, because a lot of my students will say things like, I hate working in groups. Do we have to do a group project? I hate group projects. And if you look at our society, we do have trouble working in groups. Our families are falling apart. Our government's falling apart. We don't know how to cooperate. So maybe the way towards cooperation is learning how groups work, how they function, and how we can make our groups better. So keep that in mind. The idea of being in a group, meaningfully being included in a group, is the inability to be selfish. If you're working on a group project and you're a meaningful member of that group for the group project, you cannot be selfish. You have to work towards the group goal. In all societies, people belong to a variety of groups. Some of these do coincide with institutions as well. So we have families, churches, athletic clubs, firms. These are groups, and also some of them are institutions. These groups are related to overall social order in very complex ways. Groups do two important things. First, they teach people values. Second, groups enforce group pressure. I want to point out that this is different from authority. Authority is about somebody above you, somebody who has resources to punish you, a boss, a teacher, a parent, a police officer. Those are authority. Groups are more horizontal, they're more flat, they're more equal. So we're talking about pressure from equals rather than pressure from somebody who has greater power than a subordinate. So keep that in mind. Often when you take a sociology course, teachers will use the phrase norm. When I first started teaching social order, I used the word norm, but I've stopped because it confused my students. People think everything that is normal is caused by a norm. This is incorrect. Norm sounds like an outcome, but we are using it as a cause. Based on these two problems, I don't want you to think everything normal is a norm, and I don't want you to think of norm as an outcome. I use the word group pressure because it's more descriptive. It tells us it's a cause, it's group pressure, it's causing something to happen, it's causing cooperation, it's causing coordination, and I don't have to deal with that whole issue of normality. Something can be normal to a group, but it doesn't have to be caused by group pressure. Social groups are extremely powerful. If you think about your group pressures surrounding gender, how might women as equals police other women? How might men as police other men as equals? So I'm going to put this up on the discussion board, and I want you to discuss the group pressures surrounding being male and the group pressures surrounding being female. There's a lot to think about here, so don't just limit it to you have to be strong if you're a man. You can't cry. Go beyond that. Every single student should be able to offer a unique group pressure surrounding being male and being female. Don't repeat something one of your classmates have said. You won't receive credit. One of the important things about group pressures and about culture, about basically everything we're talking about, is that as humans we have power. We decide what words mean. We decide what emotions and actions and behaviors, we decide what those things mean, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. And we decide to put pressure on our friends. If we want to change things in our society, we have the power to affect change in our small groups. We can decide that it's okay for boys to cry. We can say it's okay for women to be leaders. We can change our society by changing our groups. So let's turn towards our internal states. And the argument put forth is, social order can be created or maintained if groups can socialize individuals to internalize pro-social values. Socialization is extremely important to sociology. We are socialized to authority, we are socialized to culture, we are socialized to group pressure, we are socialized to our values, we are socialized into our habits. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of socialization to every single thing we talk about in our sociology classes. So let's talk about values. Let's define them. Values are general and relatively durable internal criteria for evaluation. The important word here is internal. If I hold a value in honesty, I am holding myself internally to that criteria. If I lie, I feel guilty. That's an internal criteria. Nobody else knows that I lied. I'm the only one who knows that I lied. I know I value honesty. It's my internal criteria. If I value honesty, it's general. It applies to many different situations. I'm honest with my wife. I'm honest with my students. I'm honest with my church. They're durable. Our values tend not to change a lot. If I value something, I keep that value for a pretty long period of time, and a major event needs to come along to shatter that value. Again, they're internal, and we evaluate with our values. If I believe in honesty, if I value honesty, it tells me whether my own behavior is good or bad. If I am judging the government, and I feel like the government is being dishonest, I'm evaluating the government as good or bad. But it's an internal evaluation. It's me evaluating either the outside world or myself through that lens of values. And I want to point out that this is different than emotion, different than habit, and different than self-interest. The person's being motivated by what they believe in, what they value. Values are socialized. We have internalized our values. They motivate us. If we experience something that violates our values motivate our reactions. We punish ourselves through guilt. If we're not living up to our own values, we will punish ourselves. We'll feel guilty, and then maybe we'll overeat. Maybe we will try to hurt ourselves. We'll try to do some behavior that punishes ourselves because we're not living up to our own values. So I'd like you to go to the discussion board and discuss 10 examples of values with your classmates.